What is the state of US-UK relations right now? We've seen a number of senior Labor ministers have made some unhinged, ugly comments about Donald Trump in the past. We know he doesn't easily forgive and forget. What is the state of that relationship?
Well, on the surface, everybody will tell you that it's still a special relationship, but anybody who's met the key players will also be able to tell you that that's not the case. There is an enormous amount of scepticism within Team Trump over Keir Starmer, the Labour government, Sadiq Khan. Elon Musk has become a symbol of that, tweeting almost daily about how bad the Labour government is, how terribly it's managed issues like the rape gangs, the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs, the clampdown on free speech, which, remember, Americans, and anybody else with common sense really doesn't like. And that's really riled the Americans. But there's also this frustration in Washington. On the one hand, we have the most pro-UK president, pretty much since Reagan. And at the same time, we have a Labour government that's obsessed with getting back into bed with the European Union, a declining bloc in the global economy, overrun with protectionism and economic stagnation, left to right, riddled with political division. So there's a frustration in Washington. These guys are saying, look, let's do a deal. Let's do a big trade deal. Let's get close. Let's work on this relationship. We've got a Labour government that kind of doesn't really know what to do with it, doesn't want to say anything nice about Trump, doesn't want to embrace America. It's sort of paranoid of not alienating Brussels, but Brussels is, Brussels is the past. Trump, I think, is the future. That is the political realignment that the West and the Anglosphere need to pursue.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, you'll be pleased to know that last time Nigel Farage was in Australia, he sat here at this desk in this studio, and I predicted confidently he would be a future Prime Minister of Britain.
Let me just say,
yes.
When I left him a couple of hours ago, he was in the pub having a pint.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, I know you'll be rushing off to join him, I hope. But can you explain to me this idiocy about a tenth of England's farmland is going to be rewilded to meet climate targets? This is lunacy. Beautiful English countryside, the most beautiful countryside in the world. That lunatic Ed Miliband and Labor are handing 10% of it over to solar farms and rewilding weeds and all this eco-garbage, Matt.
Well, that's exactly what's happening. Ed Miliband is probably the most ideologically extreme minister that we've had on net zero to date. This is when you don't believe in God, you tend to believe in anything, and he's fallen head first into radical net zero-ism. And, thankfully, we've had some surveys over the last couple of weeks showing that the British people are actually becoming more sceptical about net zero, particularly the way in which it's piling higher bills on ordinary working people. And we've also seen, frustratingly, new taxes on family farms that have been on these islands for generations. The Labour government's decided it's going to impose inheritance tax on those family farms alongside the net zero regulations, alongside the net zero extra bills, at the same time as that Labour government is giving the same amount of money that it's going to raise by smashing British farms, 500 million, it's giving 500 million to climate initiatives across Africa and South America. So there's a kind of real sense that this Labour government is certainly not on the side of the working man and woman, but it's definitely not on the side of British farming. And that's why we've got more tractors than ever in Westminster protesting almost on a weekly basis. Because I tell you, you won't feel this necessarily in Australia, but there is a political revolution that is about to happen in this country. Everybody can feel it. All the key groups in this coalition, the farmers, the workers, the small towners, the pensioners, they're all utterly fed up with this Labour government, which is why we're seeing these remarkable shifts in the polling.
Well, Matt, I can tell you can see it here in Australia in some of the regions where people are sick of being smashed by renewables projects coming in across their farmland. But, back to your point about these farmers, it seems to me, and I'd love your thoughts on this, that really what is going on here, it's not so much about saving the climate, it's about smashing all of the traditional pillars of Britain, one of which, of course, being farmers, but, also we've seen it with the elderly and, the treatment of them and other sorts of groups, that really this is about not so much about climate, changing the climate, but changing society.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go a little bit even further. I mean, our greatest conservative philosopher, Roger Scruton, once called it the culture of repudiation.
Yes.
He said essentially what you get among the elite class is a culture of repudiation. They repudiate everything that makes those nations distinctive, their history, their identity, their collective memory. He also used the term oikophobia, a sort of hatred of your own people. And I think, in essence, what we've seen, particularly since the 2010s, is a radicalization of the elite class as it's basically turned against its own people. And it's done that because among the elite world, you do win social status by being negative and derogatory about nation states, about the deplorables, about, the garbage people, about the loons and the so-called racists and the xenophobes. That's how today's elite class win social status. It's this luxury belief. And Rob Henderson, an academic from Cambridge, had this idea that, 50 years ago, the elite accrued status through money, through wealth and estates, whereas today they have tried unsuccessfully to win social status by looking down on their own people and winning applause from other members of that elite class. And I think that's what's going on. The only problem they've got is the forgotten majority aren't going to go along with it. They're saying, well, look, we love our country, we love our history, we love our culture. We actually, I think it's remarkable to come from these islands. I think it's really great to come from these islands, all the contributions we've made over centuries. We're really proud of this. We're not going to give this up. And that's where they've miscalculated. You see, they control the institutions. They think they can do this top down, but nobody else is going to go along with it.